Fans thought it was just another normal moment, another update, another appearance, something familiar and predictable. But within seconds, everything changed when Heughan and Caitríona Balfe did something no one expected. There was no announcement, no build-up, no hint that anything unusual was about to happen. And that's exactly what made the moment so powerful. It began in a setting that felt completely routine, tied to the world fans have followed for years through Outlander. Whether it was a live event, a social media post, or a behind-the-scenes interaction, nothing initially stood out as different. The tone was casual, relaxed, almost like countless moments before it. Fans tuned in expecting the usual updates, light conversation, maybe a glimpse into the show's ongoing journey. Then, without warning, something shifted. Sam and Caitríona introduced something unexpected, something that didn't feel scripted or part of a promotional plan. It wasn't a major announcement or a headline-driven reveal, but rather a gesture that felt personal. And in that instant, the atmosphere changed from routine to something far more meaningful. What made this moment stand out wasn't just the surprise itself, but the way it was delivered. There was a sense of sincerity, of intention, that felt different from typical public interactions. It didn't come across as something designed purely for attention, it felt like something done for the fans, not for the cameras. And that distinction is what made people stop and pay attention. The gift, whatever form it took, carried an emotional weight that went beyond its surface. It could have been a heartfelt message, a special video, or a small but meaningful gesture, but the specifics mattered less than the feeling it created. Fans didn't react because of what it was worth, but because of what it represented. It felt like a direct connection, something shared rather than presented. As the moment unfolded, reactions began to spread almost instantly. Fans who witnessed it started sharing clips, screenshots, and interpretations, trying to capture what made it so special. There was excitement, but also a kind of emotional response that isn't always easy to explain. Because sometimes, it's not the scale of the gesture that matters, it's the authenticity behind it. What's interesting is how quickly people recognized that authenticity. In a space where so many interactions are carefully managed, fans have become skilled at noticing when something feels different. And this felt different. It didn't follow a predictable pattern, and it didn't seem designed to fit into a larger narrative. It simply existed as a moment of connection. For Sam and Caitríona, this kind of gesture reflects something that has been consistent throughout their journey with Outlander. Their relationship with fans has never felt distant or purely promotional, it has always carried a sense of mutual appreciation. And in this moment, that appreciation became visible in a way that felt immediate and genuine. There's also something important about the timing. Moments like this tend to happen when least expected, when attention isn't focused on big announcements or major events. That's what gives them their impact. They break through the routine, creating something that stands out precisely because it wasn't anticipated. As more fans began to experience the moment, the reaction grew beyond simple excitement. It became something shared, something that people connected over, discussed, and revisited. And in that process, the gift took on a larger meaning. It wasn't just something given, it became something that brought people together. And as that realization settled in, one thing became clear. What started as an ordinary moment had turned into something unforgettable, not because of how big it was, but because of how it made people feel. But what truly made this moment so special wasn't just the surprise itself, it was what it revealed about the connection between Heughan, Caitríona Balfe, and their fans. Because in an industry where so many interactions feel planned and controlled, moments like this stand out precisely because they feel genuine. And that sense of authenticity is something fans recognize almost instantly, even if they can't fully explain why. At its core, this gift wasn't about value or scale. It wasn't about something extravagant or highly produced, it was about intention. The fact that it came without warning, without promotion, made it feel more personal, almost as if it was meant for the fans directly rather than for a wider audience. And in a world where everything is often filtered through marketing strategies, that kind of spontaneity carries a different kind of impact. For Sam and Caitríona, this moment reflects a relationship with their audience that has been built over years. Outlander didn't just create viewers, it created a community, a group of people who feel deeply connected to the story and the people behind it. And when actors acknowledge that connection in a way that feels sincere, it strengthens that bond in a way that no scripted interaction ever could. Fans responded not just with excitement, but with emotion. Social media quickly filled with reactions, people sharing how unexpected the moment felt, how much it meant to them, and how it reminded them why they had followed the journey for so long. It wasn't just about the content of the gift, but about the feeling of being seen, of being appreciated. And that emotional response is what turned a simple gesture into something much larger. What's particularly interesting is how this moment shifted the conversation. Instead of focusing on future episodes, storylines, or speculation, fans began talking about connection, about gratitude, about the relationship between creators and audience. It became less about the show itself and more about the experience of being part of something that extends beyond the screen. And that shift is what gives the moment its lasting impact. At the same time, it highlights something important about how modern audiences engage with the people they follow. Fans today aren't just passive viewers, they're active participants in a shared experience. They watch, they react, they discuss, and they form communities around what they love. And when that engagement is acknowledged in a meaningful way, it creates a sense of loyalty that goes far beyond entertainment. There's also a deeper layer to this, one that goes beyond a single moment. Over time, small gestures like this accumulate, shaping how fans perceive the people behind the characters they admire. They create a sense of trust, a belief that the connection isn't one-sided. And in an environment where authenticity is often questioned, those moments become incredibly valuable. For Sam and Caitríona, this kind of connection doesn't happen by accident. It's built through consistency, through years of interactions that reinforce the idea that fans matter. And while this particular moment may have felt spontaneous, it reflects a larger pattern, one where appreciation is expressed not just in words, but in actions. As the reactions continued to spread, it became clear that the impact of this gesture wasn't fading. People kept returning to it, revisiting the moment, sharing it with others who hadn't seen it yet. And in doing so, they extended its reach, turning it into something that continued to resonate long after it first happened. What makes this even more powerful is how simple it was. It didn't rely on spectacle or scale, it relied on feeling. And that's something that can't be easily replicated or manufactured. It comes from a place of authenticity, from a genuine desire to connect, and that's why it stands out. In the end, the reason this gift mattered so much isn't because of what it was, it's because of what it represented. It was a reminder that even in a world driven by content and attention, genuine moments still have the power to cut through the noise. And when they do, they leave an impression that lasts far longer than anything planned. Because sometimes, the most unexpected gestures aren't the ones that surprise us the most, they're the ones that remind us why we cared in the first place. And perhaps what lingers the most is how rare moments like this have become. In an era where almost every interaction is curated, filtered, and timed for maximum visibility, something unscripted carries a different kind of weight. It reminds fans that behind the characters, behind the fame, there are still genuine human connections driving everything forward. And that realization often resonates far deeper than any planned announcement ever could. Over time, these small but meaningful gestures begin to define how audiences remember a show and its stars. Not just through iconic scenes or dramatic storylines, but through moments that feel real and shared. They become part of the emotional memory fans carry long after the series ends, shaping how the entire journey is remembered.